Hello, this is Giselle Gamby from the Intuitive Pull podcast. We are now in season 5 as we are on the home run for 2024. The next episodes will be daily episodes until the 31st of December 2024, all dedicated to you coming to full and complete resolution around the places within you and the places in your life that are unresolved. Hello, Intuitive Pull community. We're at episode 8 of the Unresolved series. I hope that you have been enjoying what I've been sharing with you, and I hope that you listened into episode 7 with Malcolm Quinn. That was a really special episode because Malcolm demonstrated everything that I'm talking about. And today's episode is also another way of looking at what Malcolm was talking about. I had this sense to create a model. It was actually like the model was coming through me on the essential elements to embodying the all of us and to experiencing really significant transformation on the inside and also really significant transformation on the outside, which again is what Malcolm demonstrated, and so did his beautiful wife, Leah, with her becoming cancer-free. And in fact, having coached Leah for the last 5 months, we have worked with this model. I have even showed her this model. So let me just bring this model up for those of you who are watching. Just one moment, please. So I'm going to explain this model for those who are not watching so you can imagine it in your mind's eye. So imagine 3 circles all meeting at the center. So imagine a circle on the left, imagine a circle on the right meeting, and then imagine a circle above meeting the 2 circles below, almost like as if those 3 circles are forming the shape of a triangle. If you were to put those 3 circles in the shape of a triangle, they would fit. Now, as I said, was really on an intuitive inquiry, probably about 3 months ago. And I was looking at the people who have had massive transformation and what were the elements of that massive transformation that ended up being lifelong. So I've been using the expression in this Unresolved series about moving the furniture around when we're not going through the process that needs to happen in order to experience complete resolution. So I'm talking about lifelong transformation. In that inquiry, this is where this model was seen. So the 3 elements of fear on the left, for those who are just listening to this podcast, fire on the right, and at the top, faith. Now, when I first started receiving this model, I didn't have the left element. What I had was fire and faith, and how fear turned up was pretty awesome. I, one weekend, had this model, but without the word fear in that left circle. I had this model, it had been on my computer, and it just flashed by. It's like that document just flashed by. And when it flashed by, I had a moment of seeing the word fear in that left circle. And so then I started to really presence this model, and absolutely this model demonstrates all the elements that are essential for transformation that stays, not transformation that comes and goes, and loops back into the patterns and the habits and the powerlessness that we had been experiencing. These elements provide transformation that is complete. So I'm just going to stop recording that screen share. Here we are. So I want to talk about the essential element of fire on this episode, and then I'm going to be speaking about the other elements in the next 2 episodes. So I want you to consider this. When we think about fear, well, actually, I'll ask you, when you think about fear, what do you do with that? Do you think that you can't have fear? Do you think that fear is bad? Do you feel that you are not allowed to have fear? Do you feel that when fear arrives, you need to push it away, pretend it's not there, bury it under the carpet, ignore it, distract yourself away from that fear? Do you feel it's bad for you? Do you feel like you shouldn't have fear? Do you feel like you're failing if you have fear? And when I talk about fear, I'm talking about the contrast from love, when we fear and love. So fear has many different elements, or let's say many different expressions. So fear is the headline, it's the state of being. But amongst fear, if you can think about the different expressions of fear, anxiety, anger, disillusionment, being afraid, being fearful, rage, confusion, uncertainty, all of these expressions are expressions of fear. So when we have those feelings and they become our state of being, do you think that we're not allowed to have those, that we're failing, that we shouldn't be experiencing those? Well, this is what I would like to say. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is, in fact, one of love's, if not the greatest agent of change. It's love's greatest agent of change. Fear is, in fact, love's ally. Fear is not to be feared because of that. So without fear, what happens when we don't experience fear? We don't get to experience the contrast of love and all of love's different rays: certainty, respect, acceptance, self-love, compassion, understanding, fire, faith, direction, conviction, intuition, provocation, letting go of control. They're all, or some of, the elements of love. Without fear, we don't get to experience its contrast. So whenever I start with a new client in the first session, there's a whole lot of framing up that I do. And one of the stories that I share is I get them to imagine, what would it be like if everything in the room that they were in was white? The floor, the ceiling, the windows, the furnishings, even themselves, their clothing, their body, their hair, everything was white. Everything was white. And I asked them the question, would you know what white is? And of course, the answer is no, because how can we know white without its contrast? We only get to know love through the contrast of fear. And so therefore, fear is love's greatest agent of change. Fear is an ally to love. Fear is not to be pushed away, judged as being that something is wrong with us, that we're failing. In fact, without fear, we don't even have the tension and the desire to move. We don't have the compulsion that is needed within us to make the decision to move, to experience a different version of ourselves. We don't have the fire. We don't have the agency. And if you look back at the previous episode with Malcolm, when his wife Leah had her recurrence around breast cancer, and now it was defined as level 4 breast cancer, which is largely incurable, and he wasn't doing so well, he said something to the words of, there was a force greater than my own that was asking me, that was guiding me to go and do the work so that he could be the greatest support to his wife. Without that, he would not have experienced his coming home. He would not have told me in the interview that he is living his best life now. So fear is not the enemy. So just imagine this, if your personal world and even the world at large didn't fear fear. Imagine what would happen if you didn't fear fear and you accepted it for its purpose. If you accepted it as an ally of change. Imagine the world at large if we accepted fear as an ally of change. What would happen? And so what if fear and love have to coexist? Rhetorical question, really. And what if their coexistence is actually natural order? Again, rhetorical question. And so I encourage you on this, or during this series that is dedicated to this theme of bringing what is unresolved to the light, my obsession of bringing what is unresolved to the light so that it can be free. What if you held fear in that context? Would you continue pretending it away? Would you continue resolving and cajoling, pushing the furniture around? Would you continue having one eye open and one eye closed? Would you continue not wanting to front up fully, 100%? Would you continue withholding from yourself and withholding from others the truth? No. And so welcome fear and all of its expressions that might be going on in you right now. You know, we are at the end of 2024. We're coming towards the end of November. And I personally always use this time as a time of reflection. I ask myself, did I fulfill the promises that I made to myself at the beginning of the year? At least the ones that I knew of, because I can tell you what, the home runs that I've made this year are not the home runs that I had expected to make. And the home runs that I've made are more important than the home runs that I had expected to make. And if there are some home runs that have not been made, if there is some disappointment, if you are feeling somewhat powerless, if you are feeling frustrated, or even if you're in denial of what is here and what isn't here, I encourage you, bring that model into your pondering, into your contemplations. Do some writing, do some notes to self around the element of fear. Be brave enough because it is the brave ones who do face themselves full frontal, who aren't afraid of feeling the feelings that come from fear. It is the brave ones like Malcolm and like his wife Leah that were diligent in facing into all of those human elements because it is necessary, not just something nice to do, or it's not really nice to do, not just something that you do when you might have some time. It's essential to bringing full resolution to what is still in the cycle, the vicious cycles, the looping back to that unwanted and undesired experience of yourself, inside and out. So contemplate that. And I look forward to speaking and sharing some time with you tomorrow as I look at the element of fire. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.